Hey, everybody. It is Eric J. Olson. Today, I am broadcasting live for the Journey to $100 Million podcast. If you're not familiar with the podcast, it's where Kevin, Daisy, the co-founder of Array Digital, and I have a daily podcast where we talk about what we're doing to build our agency up to eventually be a $100 million per year company, a national digital marketing powerhouse. Now, along the way, we are making, frankly, a lot of mistakes and learning a lot, and we share that with you. But look, it's not just about $100 million. It's about creating opportunity for our employees, for all of our clients. As we grow, we're building a bigger organization. We're creating opportunity for everyone and producing better and better services and products for the people that we work with. And so there's a lot to be learned here and a lot that you could apply to your business as well. Now, it's not just Kevin and I rambling about all the dumb things that we do, and there are a lot of dumb things, but sometimes we bring on other people, experts, and we can ask them what they're doing or how they're helping their clients to grow to $1 million, $5 million, $100 million. And today we have a guest on who is Jodi Flynn. Hey, Jodi.
Hey, Eric. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and us. Let me tell everyone about you a little bit. So Jodi Flynn of Women Taking the Lead is an executive leadership coach, podcaster, author, speaker, and workshop facilitator. Women leaders hire Jodi to develop the skills needed to thrive in the senior leadership. I like that. That is very concise.
Yes. Yeah. It
And
took some time to get there and
you know,
realize that's what it is. And that's how I want to say it. Yeah.
yes, I bet it took a long time to get to that. Like simple is hard to achieve, isn't it?
Simple is hard. And I'll tell you, Eric, I'm celebrating 11 years in business in a few weeks. And I nailed that about 6 months ago. That's how long it took.
And I'm sure it'll be tweaked at some point still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Isn't
We're
that
always honing and learning more. Right.
it's amazing. I know we're doing the same thing here. And probably bigger changes because we haven't been at it quite as long as you here at Array Digital, but always something to change. Well, hey, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do and kind of how you help your clients.
Mhm. I'm a certified executive leadership coach. And as you said, my business is Women Taking the Lead. And I do specialize in working with women leaders who are incredible and they've achieved that promotion, that one that trips them up a little bit, right? The way they're operating as a leader isn't serving them well in this new promotion. They're having a hard time getting their feet underneath them and mastering this current promotion. And so because of that, they take a hit to their confidence. They start to doubt themselves. And so I work with them so they can sort of up level their leadership. And so they're operating at a new level that does serve them. And so that they can master this current promotion, be ready for the next one, and thrive in whatever level of leadership they're in. But ultimately, my personal mission is to get more women into senior leadership.
I think it's great. I don't know the stats. I know that it's a lower percentage than you would expect of women, and certainly in the C-suite, the senior leadership. Do you know roughly like how many women are kind of breaking through that glass ceiling?
No, not exactly. And the numbers have shifted quite a bit over the last 18 months because of the pandemic. So many women left the workforce that I have not seen the current numbers of how many women are in senior leadership. But I can tell you with confidence that it is not 50%.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I had not heard that women were leaving the workforce more than maybe the rate of men leaving the workforce during the pandemic. What do you think contributes to that?
It's women play a lot of different roles in their life, and they tend to be the primary caretakers for young children, aging parents, and they can't uh, perform at the level they want to perform at work and do all of those things. And especially during the pandemic, they're being called upon to homeschool their kids,
Yeah.
their parents are getting sick, or it's not safe for them to get out and go grocery shopping, go to the doctors, that sort of thing. And because of that, I think a lot of women, and especially my clients, because my clients tend to be overachievers or type A, and it is very difficult for these women to do anything in half measures. Like, they really want to give it their all. And because they're not able to perform at the same levels they were prior to the pandemic, I think a lot of them are saying, and I've talked with many of these women who've said, I just need to take a break, focus on my family, focus on the people who need me, and I'll go back to work, when everything settles down again.
Yeah. So just can't do both things at the same time, right? So like being in a senior leadership position and having to homeschool the kids, very difficult to do that at the same time. But I guess before, effectively the kids were being taken care of by the schooling system or daycare, and now it's all crashed together. That's the problem, right?
Right. Even people who had the luxury of having nannies in their homes, for a lot of them, that's not working out anymore either. And so and I think a lot of it depends on the age of their kids. I know women who have kids who are in high school, college age, they need some extra support, but not to the same level that preschool kids, grammar school kids do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah. Agreed. The younger kids, they need a lot of hand holding when it comes to getting focused and working on stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you mentioned earlier that you work with people who have gotten to a level where they're losing confidence, I guess, that they can perform that job at that level. Is this called the Peter Principle?
I've heard of the Peter Principle. Yes, that you're promoted to the level of your incompetency.
Correct.
Yes, and this is something I work primarily with women within organizations, but this can happen to anybody. It happens to entrepreneurs as well, right? The business grows, to such a level where you have to hire, right? Or you have many team members. You need to stop being the one who's doing all the work, and instead you need to be the leader. And it starts with being the manager, but then eventually you really need to act as the leader, and that's really difficult for people who are doers and who are used to solving the problems, fixing things, who are producing results. It is very difficult to shift their mindset around who I am in this workplace so that they can provide the highest value.
I feel this myself, right? We have 22 employees at this point.
Wow. Good
something like that. And I've said this to people before that work with me, like, in certain cases, like I'll kind of like sit back and wait for the organization to do something, but my inclination is just jump in, make the change, break a bunch of shit,
Right.
really,
Right.
and then we'll figure it out later. But I need to kind of let other people be a little more methodical and take their time. They've got their own style, and it's the right thing to do once the company gets a little bit bigger. But it's difficult to not just naturally go do what I've been doing to get to this point.
Because you know how to do it, and you can probably get it done more quickly, right? That is the struggle. That is the struggle.
And I don't agreed. Yes, totally agree. I could just make it happen, but there's a fallout, right? that someone's got to deal with, that I may not, because I may be recording a podcast instead.
Yeah, you've moved on.
So that goes through my head a lot. Yeah. And I try to do it. There's other folks that I've worked with who take a very micromanagement position, I guess, where sometimes they won't extend trust, or they won't extend authority, and then they'll do it. And I've seen that work until that person, the authoritarian, like leaves or shifts positions, and everything falls apart.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that go on. You can't grow. right? Because if you're relying on yourself to do all the work, your time is finite, your energy is time finite, your resources are finite. So it inhibits growth. And also, yes, if you're that micromanager and you're on everybody and people learn and they adapt to that leadership style so that when you go away, the structure isn't there anymore, the attention isn't there anymore. It's almost, I mean, people with good intentions who would be, good workers under normal circumstances, they're in a situation where it's the whole thing, like the boss is away, the mice will play. I don't think people go into work with the intention of taking advantage of the boss, but when you're used to a certain work environment and you've adapted to that work environment, when that person who's leading the charge and telling you what to do, hour by hour or day by day is on vacation, you're kind of like, oh, it's hard to be productive, under those circumstances. Yeah, it's exactly that. And for those leaders who are doing this, they're continuing to jump in. If ultimately you're only looking to produce a certain amount of results or achieve certain goals, I mean, that's fine, but really, if you want to grow and expand and accomplish more, and you have the team that can do it, you have to change your mentality around, I'm the one who can do this and I can move this fast, right? It's quick, it's easy. I've
Right.
done it a million times. I can do it and it'll get done. Changing that mentality to, my role is to develop other leaders so that someone could be me someday, right? You have to think about it that way. Like, I need to replace myself
Yep.
if I want to get the next promotion or grow the business even more so that somebody can do what I'm doing right now and I can move on to a bigger role.
What do you say to people when they hear that and they ask the question or conclude, well, but that's going to make me vulnerable if someone else can do my job?
Hmm. That's a limited mentality, right? That's coming from a place of lack and scarcity. I was promoted 5 times within 6 years when I was in my corporate career, and I always came from the mentality of, I'm not going to get promoted until somebody can do the work that I do. Right? You can't get promoted, and I've heard, and I it hasn't happened within my teams, but I have overheard other leaders say,
Mhm.
I can't promote that person because nobody else can do their job. Nobody else knows what it is that they do. So you essentially back yourself into a corner. You are stuck where you are, right? So and honestly, Eric, there's a possibility that you could lose your job even if nobody else knows what you do, right? Like the markets change, businesses change, they get acquired, there are mergers.
Yep.
I eventually was outsourced in my corporate career. It happened to be right when I was starting my business, which was perfect, but my job was outsourced and I was a hard worker. And I was really smart and I did a great job. It didn't make a difference because the company was now outsourcing all of that work to another company. Even if I had been the only person who could do it within my company, it didn't matter because somebody at a different company was going to learn it really quickly and
Yep.
they were going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. When you work with a new client, what are some of the things that maybe they're struggling with? What do you see often?
What I see often is exhaustion, burnout, like what we were talking about. Like, they've been promoted, so they've got more responsibility than they had before, but they're still trying to do all of the work and all of the things that they were doing before. And it'll be
Mhm.
common things like they're attending all the meetings that they're invited to, whether or not they really need to be there, right? I often say to my clients, don't attend every meeting you're invited to. You really got to take a step back and think about, do I need to be in this meeting? They're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. And my ideal clients also tend to be people pleasers, right? They like saying yes. They like taking care of people. They, want to be that person, and they have a hard time saying no, setting boundaries, that sort of thing. So typically, when somebody's first starting to work with me, there's some level of, I can't sustain this for much longer. Something needs to change. And also, what will typically show up with my clients who are, or women who are initially coming to me exploring coaching is, I need to make a decision, right? I'm at a crossroads, or I'm nearing a choice point, and I don't know what to do. It's all swirling around, and I don't want to make the wrong decision. And typically they're feeling that way because, their past,
Yeah.
whatever's happened in their past, there's typically a situation where they got burnt, or they feel like they made the wrong decision. And so you talked about before, like, micromanagers have a hard time trusting other people. Well, that actually stems from an inability to trust yourself. And when you can't trust yourself, decision making is so difficult, and it's torture.
As the micromanager, you don't trust yourself. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Typically what shows up externally starts from an internal place. When you don't trust yourself, it's hard to trust other people, right? If you can trust yourself, right, to kind of
Interesting.
get a sense of other
Yeah.
people, and know what's going on and be adaptable, you're less likely to micromanage, right? Because you extend that to other people, cautiously. There's always like a little bit like, let me make sure they're trained. Let me make sure they know where everything is. They know where to find the printer, things of that nature. Like, we've gotten them up and running, and then you give them a little bit of leeway to be able to make mistakes.
That is really interesting. I had never heard that correlation before about how you feel about yourself
Mhm.
when it comes to being a micromanager, and why you become a micromanager, because you don't trust, like, you I guess you see those qualities in yourself. You don't trust yourself, so you project the lack of trust onto others.
Yes.
Really interesting. We do a lot of sales training with our sales team here, and the sales trainer was saying that a lot of the objections that salespeople hear, especially if it's the same one, the same objection over and over and over again, they create that themselves. So, as an
Mm.
example, if the objection is it costs too much money, well, the salesperson probably does
Yeah.
not like to spend money themselves, right? And
Yes.
they actually think that this is not a good value. And
Right.
so you're creating a lot of those objections. I never really considered that philosophy or that concept in some situation like leadership or management. That's really neat.
Mhm. Yeah,
Wow.
it goes across the board. Yeah, and that is so true, that I could see that in a salesperson. Whatever they believe or don't believe about the product, it's gonna show up in how they talk about it,
Hmm.
right? And then before you know it, the customer's talking about it, and they can't overcome that objection because they don't believe in the product, or
Yeah,
that the product has the value that it's
correct.
being the price reflects. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wow. So what are some techniques that you urge your clients to try or to implement? Like, do you have like a regiment? Every
Mhm.
day you should do these things. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about
Not
helping your clients?
Not so much a regimen, but I have a system that I take my clients through, because it's not the same answer for everybody, right? It really has to be personalized. Although, a lot of this stuff shows up very similarly. Like, for example, like, one of the foundational pieces of my coaching system is self care. But I'm not saying to my clients, drink 8 glasses of water a day, get 8 hours of sleep, get in an hour workout every day. It's actually a holistic approach, and they identify what re you know, re-energizes them, what helps them to relax, what revitalizes them. When they identify those things, they then create their own personalized self-care plan that they'll tell me about, so I can hold them accountable and ask, how is this
Yeah,
going? Are you doing these things? And make sure they're on the right track. Because, I mean, we all know this, but we don't do it. Self care is foundational to our ability to show up as at our best. And some of the work I'm going to be asking my clients to do might be a little challenging to them because it's new, right? If they have a hard time trusting themselves, they're going to have to challenge, where did that come from? And some of this work isn't easy. And if they're not taking care of themselves, they won't feel like they have enough energy to make changes, right? Because changes take a little extra energy from us. It's not these are things that go outside of our normal routines, our habits, our automatic ways of being. It takes thought and intention. And so we have to be in good shape when we're going to do these things. So, like I said, my clients typically come to me feeling a little, tired, exhaustion at an extreme, but some sense of I'm not feeling my best. I don't feel great. And so one of the first things we're doing is like, let's get this back on track. Right? Because if you do feel good and you do feel great, you will be able to make these changes and you will show up at your best.
And I wrote down, I take notes as we talk. And you mentioned change takes energy out of us. And that is so true. Change management is just a difficult thing. Nobody who likes change, right? Nobody likes change. It's hard. It's just easier to keep doing the same old. But you're right. It takes energy and it takes commitment just to acknowledge that maybe you may want to consider change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, how many of us know what we need to do, to make improvements or feel better? But like when it comes down to it, it's like, oh,
yeah,
exactly. Anything we resist takes energy.
Yep.
You're
right about that too. Yeah.
The very act of resistance is taking energy from us.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We actually have some comments and questions here from Tim McDaniel, MBA. And also Tim, I know him. He's a local here. He also got a new, Tim, I don't know what it is. You may have to chime in and tell us, but some sort of loan certification as a mortgage broker. So he liked the discussion about the micromanagement. That's when that came up. And then also here's a question. What are some common challenges that women face in the workplace? And more importantly, I think what's really good about this is what can men do better or to better support the women they work with? Great question, Tim.
That is a great question. And thank you for asking that, Tim. What instantly comes to mind is, and we've heard it happen, but we're probably seeing it in action as well, is there is an unconscious bias that we all have. This isn't a male thing, that women are not as competent as men. And so when women speak up or they suggest things, it's heard from a place of, or questioning, does she really know what she's talking about? Is that true? Is this a good idea? Whereas we're much more accepting when, an idea comes from a man. So what women face is they're up against this. And it's not in every workplace, and there are degrees to which this go on. It largely depends on the company culture. But what could be really helpful for women, and what men and women can do for other women, is when a woman brings up an idea is, to acknowledge it, and because what you'll see is, like, if everyone's going around the table, what do you think? What do you think? A woman will say something and it'll be like, okay, and it's passed over. And then down around the table, a little further along, a man will say something similar or the exact same thing. And people will go, wow, that's a great idea.
How come no one else suggested that?
Yeah, this is the first time we're hearing it. And if you recognize it and instantly go, wow, that's amazing. That's what Jen or Tammy or, whoever the woman was, say her name and say, yes, that's what she was saying. Exactly. That was a great idea. That is so helpful to just acknowledge and recognize, that this unconscious bias is going on. I don't think it's done maliciously or intentionally. It happens, and women and men do it at the same time. This isn't a gender war thing at all. It's a cultural thing. So that's very helpful. And also making sure women aren't taking on all the work, right? Too. Women tend to be like, if I can do it, I'll do it. And there are men out there who do this as well. So I've had male clients who fall into the same categories as my female clients, just looking around and making sure that the workload is being spread equitably. So that everybody's contributing, and a lot of this extra work, not the high profile work, but just the work that needs to get done day by day isn't falling on, the same person or the majority of the women. That is hugely helpful in the workplace.
Love it. And great advice. Well, Jodi, I really appreciate your time. if someone would like to reach out to you, if a woman, a senior leadership woman, or I should say a woman in senior leadership, would like to reach out to you and find out more, what's a good way for her to get in touch with you?
Yes, she can check out my website, which is womentakingthelead.com. You have it up there. Or you can email me. It's Jodi, Jodi, at womentakingthelead.com. I love hearing from people. Tim, thank you for your question. And Eric, thank you so much for inviting me on.
I appreciate you making the time. This will be on our audio version of the podcast in probably about a week or so. So if you're watching live on social media or YouTube, check out the actual audio version. You can go to journeyto100million.com. All right, Jodi, thanks so much.
Thank you, Eric.